like you got nothing else going for you, right? And you don't seem homeless. So, talk to me. Like, what's going on with that? Like, why do you feel that, and again, everybody's situation is different. I think for me, some people's level of entitlement can be up here when it should be down here.
This is gonna hurt. It's time for the Suffering Podcast. When you separated from
What's it saying? You're a grown-ass man?
You're a grown-ass man.
You're a grown-ass man now.
When you separate from the military, did it sort of leave you a little shiftless?
Well, I was very fortunate because when I went to Brooklyn College, I was fortunate enough to work for the Veteran Affairs and Counseling Center. And my boss was married to a Vietnam vet. So back then, she knew way more than I did, and she used to tell like stupid stuff. Like she when I got back, she said to me, "Listen, go talk to somebody." And I said to her, "Well, I mean, are you sure? Like I'm fine." Like no, I didn't know anything back then, and I fought her tooth and nail, but I went right, just to get some things off my chest. But I think I was always fortunate to have like a good supportive environment, and just seeing veterans transition back to school. I always used to joke around and say, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Right? Because we're at that stage. But everybody has different experiences, and they're at a different point in life with their military career. Like they, I get the guy who did their enlistment, they're done with it, they just want to move on. I get the 20-year guy who that's all they know, and they have to transition and have to figure out what to do. So I'm very grateful that I had the people that were put in my life to kind of guide me through it. So I never really had too long of a period where I thought that I wasn't, serving or I had a purpose.
Well, you still, from what you're telling me that you're doing now, being involved in veteran services, although you left the military, you really never left the military.
No. Well, I enjoyed that camaraderie because you can't get that. I mean, there's only a few professions where you can get that and see, you can only understand that if you live through something like that.
Well, it's the same thing with law enforcement.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah. We left police work, but we never left police work.
Yeah, and I don't think that it becomes part of you.
Right.
As much as people, want to try to, if you're a soldier, you're a soldier. You're a cop, you're a cop. That's in your core.
They can take you out of the military, but they can't take the military out of you.
Yeah. And I believe that with many people when they transition, it's such a culture shock back to the civilian world. You're like, holy, what the hell is this? So
there's an alarming thing with the veteran community, and unfortunately, it muddies the water for people who really need it. And this is something I kind of wanted to get in with you, but I didn't quite know how to approach it. It's, do some veterans take advantage of the system?
Absolutely.
All right. So what are some of the ways that they do? Because in my mind, if somebody is taking advantage of the systems or taking resources away from somebody who really, really needs it. So what are some of the ways that somebody coming home would take advantage?
Taking real advantage of the system. Now, there's a perspective that I can offer for that, right? Because if you look at the system as a whole and knowing what I know and knowing some of the things that money gets spent on, and I'm pretty sure your career, you've probably seen it in your departments or dealing with municipal government, right? My thing for veterans is, are you trying to improve, right? That's just my thing personally. But to be honest, taking advantage of the system has a lot to offer to veterans. Now, I'll give you an example, right? Like we're always measuring our service, right? Person might not have any experience overseas, right? They might have done their tour. They get hurt. They get 100% disability for the rest of their life. Meanwhile, you got the guy who's missing two legs, an arm, and they're fighting the VA.
I thought he was going to say 3 legs.
Yeah, but I've seen this happen, Mike. That's why it drives me nuts because I'm like, who the hell was your service officer that did your claim? So to me, just trying to make sense of why certain people don't get certain things.
Well, that's across the board.
That's across the board.
Yeah,
but
we've seen it in police work.
Yeah, you'll see it. And my thing is always, trying to give everybody the best possible chance to get whatever they need. After you see what some of the dumb stuff that money gets spent on, right? If it could go and support a veteran and their family, I'm all for that, because again, the issue that a lot of people have, that a lot of veterans have, is that they don't think that they're messed up. They're just trying to function with all the stuff that happened. So taking advantage of somebody, like, I'll give you a perfect example. Like for me, one time I was in the office and a kid came, right? I knew there was some mental health issues, but the kid was young. So I'm talking to him about jobs and stuff like that. And he's, oh, what about this? What about that? What about this? And I'm like, but kid, you're like 25. Like, you don't want to find out about like GI Bill or something like that. Like, you want to go right to the, like, you get that stuff if like you got nothing else going for you, right? And you don't seem homeless. So, talk to me. Like, what's going on with that? Like, why do you feel that, and again, everybody's situation is different. I think for me, some people's level of entitlement can be up here when it should be down here. You're always trying to find that happy medium. But I mean, you could, with your experience, you can tell like somebody that can really, really use it, and there's no chance. And again, your goal should always is to try to make anybody who you interact as productive as possible for society, if that's possible.
Well, what I was saying, we seen it when we go through the retirement process. When group therapy, Mike and I were in there together, we've seen some guys come into group therapy where they've been in 3 shootings and they got everything. Like you'll say to ourselves, and you know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You got it. Like, don't worry about it. Pension system's going to be pretty simple. It's actually going to be easier than most for you because of you see all the signs. And they get denied their pension. Where you have somebody on the other hand who
puts a staple through their finger,
or has an ingrown toenail.
You see that's the system.
That's the system. And do we hold it against the person who worked the system and found the holes in the system and got what the system is providing, or
or do we hold it against the system itself?
Do we hold it against the system for not seeing somebody who truly? And I'm telling you, that there's no bullshit on this one. This one guy that we're talking about, he had everything to retire, with honor, but they denied him. He ended up he went and fought for it, but he had to fight tooth and nail and spend extra money that you don't have at that point in order to get what he should have gotten.
Because no, but you almost sorted me on a tangent.
I see it all the time. I see it all the time too, in the veteran space, and some things just don't make sense. So I always try to be somebody who will try to get people to lean towards being productive. Now, if somebody like needs it, and there are people out there that need it, I'm not. We'll still do what we got to do, get them housing, get them all the stuff that they need. But everybody's situation is different. I'm curious to know, like, who's the administrator or the bureaucrat who looked at that and that made sense to them. And that happens, too. That happens a lot, unfortunately.
You know what it is? Because you have people who haven't gone through that, making the decisions. Yeah. Right? They haven't gone through what these veterans went through, and they're making decisions on behalf of that veteran, and they have no clue. Like we talk about mental health issues and stuff like that.
Well, here's another one
they're making decisions based on something they had no clue.
Here's the other one that I'll throw out there too. That could be true. You also have veterans that might not have the same level of service, and I think for me sometimes, and you got to really work hard to earn the trust. So somebody starts off the bat, oh yeah, I'm a veteran. Okay, that's great.
You're in Hawaii during the war.
But that's what I'm saying. So a lot of people use that too to earn the trust of the vet, and I always say, okay, well that's good. That's a good thing. However, look at what that person has done, and look at what that person, like the outcome. Same thing when we do. We look at the nonprofits. If you want to get into that.
Before we get into that, because I want to touch on that. So veteran services, you're heavily involved. I want to point out something because my research has brought this up to me. When you were running veteran services, was it Bergen County?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For Bergen County, you had one of the greatest wins of any person working to advocate for veterans I've ever heard of, the 0% homeless. Mm-hmm. And you were a pivotal part in that. correct?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you explain that a little bit?
So just so that your audience knows, that doesn't mean that there's never going to be a homeless veteran ever again. Got a lot of slack for that. Oh my God, no. What that meant was that we were able to develop a system, county government system, that could respond to somebody that had veteran homelessness. So part of my background too, besides the education, I did real estate, which a lot of people don't know. So it was very easy for me to know where to look to find housing options. We had our shelter, our shelter director, she was great. Miss Julie Orlando, awesome, phenomenal to work with. We gave veterans preference in our shelter, right? So we had everything there. We had all the tools there to respond quickly to the issue and the problem. And we partner with enough people that if somebody became homeless, we can pretty much square them away depending on their situation. Now, again, everybody's situation was different, but just having that tool and knowing how to do that helped out. I think once we were done, about over 420 veterans and their families in safe, affordable housing.
If there's one thing a veteran, just give them a home base. That's why that struck me so deeply, because veterans should have a home base. Just it doesn't have to be much. Just someplace to hang their hat.
But here's the interesting part. A lot of communities can do it if they want to. That's the thing. Now,
but then you take out all that nonprofit money. Yeah. And that gets us into your nonprofit.
Well, that's a great segue. Thank you.
You like that?
So that's why we do this.
So our nonprofit, very simple.
What's it called first?
NJSOS Veteran Stakeholders. And it was founded through a gentleman who worked Catholic Charities, Mr. David Pearson, started the group in Patterson. And the premise is very simple. It's just to bring everybody to the table that has something to offer.
Other nonprofits?
Other nonprofits. Listen, if you have something to offer veterans, we want to hear from you. I think if you want to just simplify it, think of it as networking for social services.
It's an interesting concept because there's a lot of different nonprofits out there specifically for veterans.
Yes.
Police world, I'm not throwing shade at the police world because we do the same thing. So there's nonprofits for veterans with blonde hair, veterans with brown hair. There's a nonprofit for every type of veteran out there. And I was always afraid that it really waters down the amount of resources that are available to vets, because they kind of don't know. There's all these nonprofits out there, but everybody's trying to grab a piece of the pie for their own nonprofit. Yeah.
Well, I read somewhere 9,600 nonprofits, veteran nonprofits in the country.
Holy cow!
Like 5 billion just nonprofits. That's not counting government, state, or municipal money.
People are twisting their heads saying, which one's right.
The thing is, people
they don't vet them like
no, and that's the whole point of the stakeholders. So so we vetted each other, right? Because we needed to know. Same concept applies. So if you come, right, and this used to happen all the time in the county. Oh yeah, I know this politician, and we do all this stuff, this and that, all this BS, right? Prove to me that you could do something, right? Yeah. I'll give everybody a chance, but if I refer somebody to you and they have a bad experience, why am I gonna go out here and say, oh no, yeah, go to these guys, I'll take care of you? And here's the thing: the issue always with social services is that nobody has marketing or outreach budgets to do this stuff. So, my job as the county director is, I don't fall into like a delusion where a lot of these people get onto the job and they always complain that they don't have enough to make it happen, right? Cops always try to make the job happen with less. That's an Army thing. Like, we never get the ideal situation. It's not going to happen, right?
Exactly.
So I can't come in here and say, yeah, I don't have the tools to really solve this problem. So I had to develop partnerships, man. Like,
you got to figure out a workaround.
So people that were very political, their whole thing were like, well, that's a lot of exposure for the county. I said, dude, listen, if you're doing the wrong thing, people are going to know. I would rather say, hey, I'm here. How can we work together? Than just stay in the office. What? People are just going to come to me? So stakeholders was like, okay, well, let's get to know and learn about what everybody's doing. And we tell people, like, listen, people do the spiel, homelessness, employment, this, that. Okay, what do you do well? If I go to you right now, what can you do for this veteran? Oh, you're an SSVF program. Great. So you have funding that can help low-income veterans if they ever become homeless or they need rapid housing. Wonderful. What do you do? Oh, we do claims. Great. What's your success rate with claims? Because if you charge the vet, that's fine. You got to disclose that. I'm more interested in, like, do you treat the veteran well, and is it a good value for them? The free VSOs, right? You could do it for free too. Are they any good? Like, would I recommend it to the state if I know, like, because anybody can just say they put in a claim, but what's the outcome after that? So that was the whole point of stakeholders, is just knowing and sharing, and listen, being serviceable. Because I always I'll put it to this way: when I started, and they were building a housing complex in Woodridge, affordable housing, 110 units. I go there, right? Knock on the trailer, right? Like a jerk off, right? And I introduce myself. First thing the lady says to me is like, "Wait a minute, you're from the county government?" I say, "Yeah, I work in Hackensack. What do you guys got going on here?" Right? And I explain myself, right? Having to give the gab is good because you could talk to people, but you say, "Listen, I like to know more," right? Found out that person also worked with another person that I took care of at the school at FDU. They were dating at the time. So she calls me and she says, "Hey, we have these extremely low income units. We can't get them filled. You think you can help out with that?" I'm like, absolutely.
Tomorrow.
What do you need? She goes, "Whoa, can you get?" I said, no. I'll send you something. What do you need? How much is the rent? Like $285 a month. Furnished 1 bedroom.
They got anything left?
Yeah.
Always looking for those deals. But here's the whole point. The property manager was just happy that, like, somebody went and talked to her. But how does that word get out? So we're always constantly looking for that stuff.
The affordable housing is big in New Jersey. And I'll give everybody a window because it's something I kind of work with now. The affordable housing, it's not what everybody thinks it is. They see these big high rises going up, or they see a whole development going up, and there's 500 units, and it's affordable. It's under COA, affordable housing. Well, here's the reality of it: only 20% has to be earmarked for affordable housing.
Correct. And if the town may or may not already met his obligation,
right? So at 20%, say there's 500 units, so there's 100 units that are going to have affordable housing. Well, the developer is going to be able to sell those other 400 units at full price or above market value. Here's the thing with COA. Years ago in the 70s, the developers somehow convinced the politicians to pass,
that happens in New Jersey,
pass this COA law, and the developers, and guess who's getting rich? It's the developers. It's unfortunate because there's enough people in this state that truly are in need of affordable housing. But think about it from a political standpoint. If you're a politician, are you going to vote against affordable housing? What, you don't like poor people? What's the matter? What's the matter with you? So it's optics.
Yeah, it's always optics, but the issue too also becomes that the politicians or the elected officials at that time, they're not thinking 20, 30 years ahead either. So one of the big things, getting over here and driving in that Route 4 traffic on Jesus Christ, you're pulling your hair out. But you see the development now. Towns always have an obligation to protect their communities. All for that. And there's certain things that you can do to mitigate that. But veteran housing seems to be like the sexy thing for politicians because who's gonna say no to veterans?
Who's gonna say no to veterans?
Yeah. But there's certain things that you can do that, or there's certain ways you can manage it to kind of mitigate any type of risk. I know Emerson, when that was done, 2017, we did a whole big thing, 14 units. Housing Authority of Bergen County did that, and we got a lot of our stakeholder partners to do donations.
Are they officially rich kids if they get housed in Bergen County?
Well,
north of Route 4.
Okay.
Yeah, north of Route 4.
All right.
Below Route 4, you're still struggling with that. Up Route 4, you're fine. But same thing. Like, you have them in all the communities. Like, I'll give you an example of somebody I thought really did it well. And this is where, again, goes to the whole government thing. You think Section 8, you're like, oh man, crappy housing authority, NYCHA. You think all that crap, right? Go to Cliffside Park and see how they run their housing authority. Same funding, same thing, but 2 buildings, veteran preference.
So it's all about the management, is what you're talking about.
It's part of it, yes. Yeah. But none of this, because here's the thing that I found out too, right? Doing this work, Bergen County is the biggest county in the state population-wise. And we have 70 municipalities, which I'm still trying to learn. But, people in Newark or people in Jersey City, the governments that run, they're like, oh, man, but you guys got no problems up in Bergen County. I was like, dude, I'll take it to Route 46. We'll go find some homeless people. Like, they're out everywhere. But how things are managed are different. And again, Cliffside Park, okay, urban, however you want to classify it, it's close to the bridge, 20,000 residents, but the mayor was a World War II veteran. His son's there now. I like the way that they run their housing authority, just their housing authority, because you have buildings, you have a senior center, which is important. You need things to do, and you got veteran preference, which many communities could do if they choose to.
And they have transportation in Cliffside, too.
Yes. Yep.
So give out your nonprofit again.
NJSOS Veteran Stakeholders.
Give us you got a website? What's
NJSOSvets.org. Still working on that, but we also have a Facebook group, and the email is njsosvets@gmail.com.
Beautiful. You got any other plugs you want to throw out?
Catholic Charities, Archdiocese of Patterson, SSVF program, wonderful program. If you look it up, they have 3 clothing closets for vets that need stuff. They do a tank pull in Clifton every year, which is fun. So if you're stressed out in the office and you want to take your rage out on an 80,000-pound tank, please join us. I'll be pulling on that day too.
Sounds great.
I'd love to do that. We have a plane pull for special. We never did tank pull.
Yeah,
it's gonna be pretty cool.
You got to come.
We might get a Suffering Podcast team out there.
We could do that.
Yeah,
okay.
that'd be
We have enough people.
Yeah. We'll get Andrew. He'll be able to cheer us on. I try to end this show in the same way every time. From going into the military, from your parents being first generation immigrants.
That was easy for you to say.
Yeah, right. And you growing up in Brooklyn, joining the military, doing your service, going overseas, to now seeing the second portion of the veteran life and really trying your best to help out those veterans. What do you think that suffering of veteran services has taught you?
Not to give up. And if anything, this is what I always say to myself: no matter how bad it gets, the storm is always going to pass. So I think if you're in it to really help people and empower them, you have to have the mentality that it's going to get better for them. If you lose that, then the work can become very burdensome. But, I always like to spin stuff. So whatever negative you give me, I'm going to try to turn into a positive.
See, I like that.
It's a great idea to have, a great attitude to have, I should say.
I really like that. AJ, thank you so much for coming in and joining us tonight. I appreciate it. I love what you're doing. I love hearing the updates from your buddy Mike. I appreciate Mike Martin very much for hooking us up. And listen, we're going to talk after the show.
Awesome.
Let's see what we can do.
I really appreciate what you're doing for the veterans. I mean, that is fantastic work. It really is.
And that's going to do it for this episode of the Suffering Podcast, The Suffering of Veteran Services with AJ Luna. And let's think about all the stuff that we learned. Always improve your position. Perspective makes you appreciate. There are those that run towards, and there are those that run away. Resources are vast, but often hard to find. But most importantly, don't give up. The storm's going to pass. That's going to do it for this episode. Go to popple.com for a digital business card. Put in the code TSP20 for a 20% discount. Follow us on all social media. That's TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram.
OnlyFans.
There you
Only
go.
fan.
Follow Mike
I
at
said fans only again. I don't even know.
Follow
Mike at Mike_Failace. Follow me at Real Kevin Donaldson. And of course, follow the Suffering Podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.